Greetings, Brookings Bio students. This is Mrs. Rydell, and we're going to finish up section 6.4 by talking about our last environmental problem that we need to think about what we're going to do about, and that is, what do we do with all our trash? We throw an amazing amount of garbage away. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, remember that's the government organization that's charged with protecting our environment, enforcing regulations, cracking down on polluters. EPA estimates the average American, each person produces over 4 pounds of garbage every day. That adds up to approximately 220 million tons of garbage each year for all of us. That's just in the United States. That's not counting anybody in other countries. And it only counts the average household. It doesn't looking at industrial waste, places that throw trash from factories, restaurants, businesses. This is just the average household. We make a huge amount of garbage. And if you think about that idea of where are we going to put all this garbage, if you could imagine a football field and pile it high with our trash, if we just started filling football fields with garbage instead of putting it in a landfill, that much trash would bury almost 1 million football fields 6 feet high with piles of garbage. And that's just the United States. We make a huge amount of trash, and we need to think about how can we cut down on making so much, and what are we going to do with the trash that we produce. Trash gets into ecosystems, and trash harms wildlife. It's estimated 1 million seabirds, 100,000 marine mammals, and sea turtles are killed every year by getting tangled up in plastic or eating the plastic, mistaking it for food. You can see this is a bird that has died, and what was in its gut, what was in its digestive tract? Little pieces of plastic. It attracts animals. They think it's food, and they eat that. This is a turtle that got caught as a baby turtle in some kind of plastic, and as the body grew, kind of condensed everything in the middle and is squeezing its body. This is a snapping turtle that was found harmed by the plastic. We're killing lots and lots of organisms, and we talked about the idea of impacting the biodiversity on our planet, and part of it is coming from the impact of garbage in the ecosystem. Plastic is made from fossil fuels, and remember we talked about the idea of the impact on the environment for digging those fossil fuels out, transporting them, processing, causes environmental damage to make the fossil fuels, and then the plastic that comes from those fossil fuels end up in the ecosystem. And plastic is forever. Once it's produced, it doesn't break down in the ecosystem. It doesn't go away. It stays on the planet, in the landfill, in our environment. Right now, we have huge areas of our ocean that are filled with floating garbage. They're called garbage gyres. There's a huge one near Hawaii, and we have several around the planet, one over a little farther west towards the coast of Japan. And we have these huge areas that are basically just filled with floating debris, floating garbage. Covers an area twice the size of the state of Texas, estimated to have over 100 million tons of debris. And these areas are basically floating garbage patches. The ocean currents kind of keep them cycling in that area, and basically it's just a floating garbage patch. We're going to watch a little video about that.
Fishing lures, milk jugs, water bottles, these things, what do they all have in common? They're all made of plastic, and the more of it we use, maybe the more of it we eat. Credit cards, protective cups, artificial limbs. It's a part of the ocean that sees very few people because it's extremely remote, largely devoid of fish, and the winds here are weak, turning away sailors. It is a massive patch of ocean located northeast of Hawaii, in the middle of the Pacific. It is spinning slowly, drawing in everything that gets in its path. It's the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a massive stew of unwanted waste. Some call it Trash Island. And the bad news for us is that it is growing.
We're nowhere near land, we're nowhere near any other ships, and it's just flotsam city out here.
Thomas Morton is a journalist producing a documentary for a web-based network called VBS.TV. He wanted to get a first-hand account of the growing ecological catastrophe, so he headed out deep into the Pacific.
It's a fairly long journey, and it's a pretty small boat, too. It takes a week to get out there. It's one of the furthest points from human contact in the world. I think the second remotest point of open water on the planet.
Morton sailed on the research vessel El Guido, which is owned by Charles Moore, an avid sailor. In 1997, Moore was returning from Hawaii to California following a yacht race when he decided to take a relaxed shortcut through the quiet and remote gyre. He noticed he couldn't look into the ocean in any direction without seeing floating garbage. Moore has since dedicated his life to studying the phenomenon. Just to go ahead and let people know, this is a big amount of trash.
The area that's polluted is estimated at double size of Texas. It's a whole region of the ocean that's just totally infested with like little broken up bits of plastic. It's just like a confetti of chunks of garbage that takes up the better part of the open water. And then there's identifiable pieces of garbage like hockey sticks and Coke bottles and what have you that float by.
The problem with plastic is it doesn't biodegrade, it photodegrades, a process in which it is broken down by sunlight into smaller pieces, but they still remain plastics.
There's a ratio of plastic to plankton of about 6 to 1. That's roughly average. We pulled in samples that were like, where it was like 1,000 to 1, where it's overwhelmingly plastic. And when you go down into the water, like you can see, like it's like being in like a snow globe in certain sections, where you can see just like little chunks of like yellow and red floating around.
It's not a film on top of the ocean, is it below the surface?
It sort of floats like near the surface. The soupy mess, like you see once you're like underwater and have a mask on. I came up out of the water once and had like little chunks in my mouth.
But the problem may be affecting more than just those who snorkel in the gyre. Thomas, you said we are eating our own trash. Explain that.
Our crap ends up in the ocean. It breaks down. It gets eaten by jellyfish, smaller life forms, like who are filter feeders. Bigger fish eat those, and eventually we start eating these creatures.
In your report, Thomas, did you ever speak to any doctors about what the impact could be health-wise?
Yes, when we got to Hawaii, we met with Dr. Frederick von Saul. The diseases he's linked it to are early onset diabetes, problems with the liver, kidneys, every major public health crisis that's hit the U.S. in like the last 30 years. He's seen evidence of exposure to the chemicals in these plastics in mice. Probably the scariest ones are the effects they can have on the reproductive system.
There is actually a study in Japan where women with elevated levels of bisphenol A were the women who were repeatedly miscarrying, never able to have a successful pregnancy.
Research suggests that 80% of the trash in the ocean comes from land and river runoff, and the majority of that is just simply household and municipal waste. And the problem is growing at an alarming rate. What do we do?
What do we do? There's no quick fix. Sitting in a plastic chair right now, this is our entire society, and in order to start addressing this problem, we've got to reconfigure our society so that we use less plastic and somehow dispose of our waste in a way that it doesn't get out to the ocean and that it doesn't last for years and years.
All right, Thomas, thank you for terrifying us and for being on News to Me.
So we have to think about what we are going to do with all of our waste. We can't just keep piling it up in landfills. We need to look at the idea of recycling. Brookings recycles in town. If you have those recycling containers that you put your plastic, your paper, your cans in, we need to look at doing that in more and more places. We talked about the idea of starting from scratch, taking way more energy than recycling. We have to think about what we're doing with our plastics. So we're going to watch a little video.
There we go, half a gallon of milk. Does a man some good. Okay, we're
here somewhere in the Poconos to turn this typical waste product into something very useful. Trash to treasure. Let's start the pursuit. Hello, Pat. Thanks very much for inviting me.
You're welcome, Paul.
Now, you've promised to turn this into something very useful.
Oh yes, bring your milk jug this way. We take plastic that is used and we give it a second life.
All right.
We
Now,
take things like milk jugs,
soda bottles or
soda.
like that?
Well, we don't use soda bottles, but we do use things like used oil containers. So these two, even though they have different applications,
And that's the symbol on the bottom, the number 2.
yes, the
Oh,
recycle
right.
symbol is the same. It's the same polymer, same
Gotcha.
plastic.
Now, I see you've got oil containers. Now, do you have to wash all that oil out or just drain it as much
Well,
as you can?
we drain the oil out and we get what we would say would be about 99.9% of the oil out.
Yeah.
And the little bit of remnant that's in there does not seem to bother our operation or our product.
Okay, let's go to step 1. We've got the plastic. What do we do next?
Now we need to grind up the plastic. Fred's grinding up milk jugs, and you can give him your milk jug, and we'll turn that into a useful product.
All right. Fred, here's my jug. You look after that, okay? Here we go.
So the milk jugs get ground up, and then we have a blower that sucks them out of the grinder and sends them to a separator. The material that comes down the bottom comes through a conveyor into a bucket or container or drum that we store the material in temporarily.
Excellent. So I should be able to get my little milk jug there.
You're going to
Little
get
pieces.
your milk jug in little pieces.
Excellent. Let's go and have a look at it. Oh, remains indeed. So, stage 1 is complete. They're like little soap flakes, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Right, what happens next?
Then we take the ground up milk jug and we put it through another process to make a useful product out of it. And you're going to need safety glasses over here.
Absolutely. We're in the heart of the industrial process here, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so this looks like a drum full of kind of ground up milk jugs.
Yes, it is. You can put your milk jug, your ground up milk jug right into
All
ours.
right. I'm going to say goodbye to my little alas for milk jug. And there she goes. So take us through the process now.
This is a raw material that feeds a machine.
And this is being...
The material is vacuum conveyed up to hoppers up on top, and then it gets blended with some color concentrate and ultraviolet stabilizers, and gravity fed down through these hoppers into the feed throat of the extrusion part of this machine. This machine is melting that plastic at 475 degrees Fahrenheit. As the plastic is melted, it's pushed forward under pressure into these blocks, and then it's diverted back underneath here to what we call a shot pot.
So that's a holding chamber, and this looks like a mega hydraulic piston.
This is a large hydraulic piston that develops 300 tons of pressure so that we
That's
can...
a lot of pressure, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah.
and we need to have that much pressure because we need to move this very viscous material into the mold very quickly. And now the plastic, which was soft like honey, is now going to become hard and rigid, and it'll be a new shape.
Oh, and here is my jug. Wow.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. So, oh, I can feel it, yeah. And what we
Well,
have...
here is your milk jug as a fence post.
Excellent. And so, lo and behold, we have the finished product. Somewhere here, Pat, is my milk jug.
Yes, your milk jug is in the post, and we have assembled here 2 posts and 3 rails.
And of course, if you haven't guessed it already, it's a
Post and
three-rail
rail fence.
Absolutely, and very, very nice. It's got a wonderful kind of wood finish on it.
Now that's the advantage here. This product has been designed to make it look like it's made from real trees, with the bark still on it.
Quite strong, isn't it?
It is. Go ahead and pull yourself up on that.
Strong and flexible?
It's flexible, but it'll hold your weight.
It will. Oh, look at that. And that's 175 pounds of... let's not go any further on that one. So, in terms of lifespan, it's going to be better than wood, I suppose?
Oh, well, it doesn't rot. That's the main thing. So if it'll outlast a wooden fence by many, many years.
So I have to say, I'm very impressed. Pat's been telling us a little bit about the factory. A lot of equipment you've recycled from other companies.
All the equipment that we use here virtually has been recycled from other companies that were going to get rid of it. Some of it came from junkyards, and we've put it all back into condition.
So we've recycled the machinery, and now we're recycling the plastic.
Excellent.
This whole chapter has been about human impact on the ecosystem, and we need to think about what it is that we're doing, what choices are we making, how those choices impact the other organisms and the planet on which we live. If we want to have a planet around for our children, our grandchildren, we need to think about what we are doing. Just a few quotes. Chief Seattle was a Native American chief, and back in the 1800s he said, "This we know, the earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to earth. All things are connected, like the blood that connects one family. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the children of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life, he is merely a strand in it. And whatever he does to the web, he does to himself." John Young, one of our former Apollo astronauts, said, "If you want to see an endangered species, get up and look in the mirror. The things we are doing to the planet are putting not only other species at risk, but ourselves at risk, the future generations. A true conservationist is a man who knows that the world is not given by his fathers, but borrowed from his children. What are the choices we are making, doing to future generations?" As Kermit says, it's not easy being green. Sometimes we may have to make some choices and changes in the way that we do things. Unless someone like you cares an awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. That's Dr. Seuss. We need to start considering the effects on our planet when we make decisions and think about that idea that we are all connected. At this point, in my personal opinion, I don't think we can count on our leaders to fix this. We have had a government that has been talking about this forever, ever since Richard Nixon was president back in the late 1960s, 70s. We have been saying we must reduce our dependence on Middle East oil. We have to get off the fossil fuels. All the way through Republican presidents, Democratic presidents, up to modern times. We have been talking about this forever. And right now, our Congress, our elected officials cannot seem to get anything done. And I think what we have to realize is what happens next depends on you. Depends on your generation is the key to fixing this. We have people in Congress right now that don't even believe that global warming is happening. That's not a problem. They're not going to choose to make decisions about this. But if you look at the young generation, only about 3% of the voters between 18 and 34 don't believe in climate change. If you survey generations, big differences between ideas on environment. Should we be developing alternative sources? Young people, overwhelmingly yes. People over 65, the lowest number of all of the age groups. Should we be expanding oil and gas? Young people say no, old people say yes. Favoring emission limits on power plants and addressing climate change. Young people overwhelmingly support environmental issues compared to numbers for older people. It's up to you, it's up to your generation. You are going to have to be the future voters, the future scientists, the future creative inventors to come up with solutions to this problem. This is our senator from South Dakota, Senator John Thune, one of the more powerful people in the Senate. And he says he admits there is a role for humans in climate change. When asked if climate change exists and is caused by humans, he said he's not denying it. What he's saying is what the debate should be about is what are we going to do about it and at what cost. And those are questions that are going to have to be answered about the future before we can make a difference to the planet. Thanks for watching.